Hi, I'm Joe Leydon, and I'm at the Sundance Cinemas here in downtown Houston, and I'm about ready to speak with the director, writer, and star of In a World, the lovely and talented Lake Bell. Would not accept a female hard newscaster because a female voice didn't have enough gravitas.
Right. No, I get it.
Now,
I would beg to differ.
Obviously. Now, you started out trying to get into voiceover work. Did you run into any foolish thinking like that?
Voiceover industry is such an interesting industry, obviously, for a myriad of reasons, but mainly for its super colorful and cacophonous characters that I found when I tried to sort of inject myself into the world. But I didn't run into it particularly. I didn't run into sexism really when I was trying to get in there. I just was getting just regardless of my sex, I feel like they were just ousting me. They were like, you're not allowed to just keep walking, because it was so much of a clique. Voiceover industry is very tiny. And there are not that many jobs, and it's very rarefied talent, so there's only so many slots, and so the people who do have those slots are very protective. But yes, I think it's a great observation that, obviously there is still a dearth of female voices in some parts of the industry, and this movie represents the movie trailer industry without hyperbole. There are no women who, I would challenge you to think of one woman that ever voiced a movie trailer, except for Melissa Disney. Okay, Melissa Disney was the one person who did it. She did the Gone in 60 Seconds trailer. So just that's a little fun fact. If you're out in the world and you need, like, if you're playing,
Trivial Pursuit,
yeah, if you're playing that, and then everyone's like, oh, guess what? And you can smarty pants them. But Gone in 60 Seconds, you can YouTube it if you want.
Well, now, not quite as long ago, but similar sort of sexist thinking.
I feel like we could have a radio show, you and me.
That's right. On NPR.
Just sort of like casual, like black and white.
Did you have the coffee? Oh, yeah.
I know, I'm carrying I feel casual with you.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Talking with Liv Ullmann after she directed her first movie.
Okay.
Now, this is Liv Ullmann, a very substantial lady in her field, and she told me that she was having so much trouble getting her director of cinematography to take direction from her because she was a woman, that she literally got to the point where she had to talk to her assistant director, who would in turn give the orders. It was sort of like, don't worry your pretty little head on it.
Right. I mean, as a rule, I think anyone who I hired on this, I'm going to address what you're saying. On this movie, I made sure to surround myself with people who had no quote-unquote listen kid about their voice or attitude towards me. Even for the part of Sam Soto, when I was first looking at very stately men before I had the obsession with Fred Melamed, it sort of hit me where I was like, oh my God, it needs to be Fred Melamed. But before that, I was looking for people. Filmmaking is an athletic sport, and it takes a lot of different departments and a lot of people that have done many more movies than I have in that capacity. And I just wanted to make sure no one was like, listen, kid. So there was no listen, kid on my set. And I had to make sure of that because it's not fun. It sort of takes the fun out of it. And I maintain that filmmaking is a great privilege and therefore should be just a rollicking time to do. So
all damn day long you would just rollick.
Well, so much rollicking. Yeah.
Now, one of the many things I enjoyed about the film is the generosity of spirit you have toward your characters. Even the father's girlfriend turns
Jamie.
out to be a substantial person.
I consider her the moral compass of this movie.
Was that a tricky role to write? Was it a tricky role to cast?
Well, again, I was very lucky that the cast in this movie are predominantly people in my iPhone. They're people that I love dearly, and they probably would not have done it had they didn't know me personally and me sort of cashing in tons of favors. Including like Eva Longoria making an ass of herself, just lovingly. It's so sweet. I think Sorry, I just got totally excited about using the word rollicking again, and then.
Was it a difficult role to cast and a difficult role to write?
Jamie, you're talking about Jamie, who was played by Alexander Holden, who's a tremendously funny actress and also a really good friend. And she inspired me for that role. Really, I always had her in mind for it, and mainly because she is every accent that represents itself in the movie is authentic, and it had to be really for this movie. Nobody could be putting on, oh no, he does a great Irish accent. I'm like, I need an Irish guy. Sorry, oh no, you should look at her because she does a great Midwestern. I'm like, I can't have people putting on accents in this movie. Everyone's going to be hopefully hyper aware of sound and voice and authenticity. So hopefully that is. But Jamie is. Yes, it's sort of a fantasy stepmother situation.
Okay, I've got one more, then I'm going to open it up to you folks. So be ready now. You got to do Houston proud and ask some good questions. Now, talking about generosity of spirit, generosity as a filmmaker, you really let Rob Corddry have some really fine moments in this, and to me, one of the more affecting moments in the entire film. In fact, I have to say, I was previewing the movie on DVD. I went back and looked at this again.
Oh, really?
When he stops the tape. How difficult was it shooting that scene?
Well, Rob Corddry is an intensely funny human being, just naturally. I I could listen to him read the phone book and just crack up laughing, But he also, I know him personally. I've known him for many years. I know him as a papa and as a husband. And so we've been dear, dear friends, and we share all kinds of experiences together and life experiences. And I knew he was capable of that kind of, he's an amazing actor. He's a very well-trained actor as well. And he just never has the opportunity really to express it. And I was incredibly jazzed to give him that opportunity and for him to go there with me. Same with Michaela Watkins, constantly doing sketch. Both of these actors are tremendous comedic actors and do broad comedy and sketch so beautifully. But I was just excited to give them an opportunity to express themselves emotionally. And that moment was heartbreaking, in shooting it. And he was so present, and it's almost funny, it's almost like uncomfortable that he's upset, but it's I think it's really a generous performance.
All right, we have some questions from the audience. This gentleman right here.
Okay. I'll mention first, I think that the movie is, everybody can tell, it's very hilarious, it's intelligent, and crisp.
It's rollicking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Did you write it fast?
Did I write it fast? No, unfortunately. I wish I said I did it in 2 weeks, but I didn't. It took a year. It took about a year and a half to 2 years for the writing process. But mind you, that's not sitting down intensively for 2 years. That's living life and having obligations and writing every second I could and rewriting and then rewriting again and then that times 25, So, writing is really rewriting. That's why it takes so long.
I want to make an observation. Joe probably jump all over me and maybe getting out. One of the things I kept noting with the script, with funny and everything else, it reminded me of somebody else.
Oh.
Woody Allen.
Oh, well, that's cool. I'll pay you your $50 right after this. We'll talk over there. Good man. Thank you.
Right there.
Obviously, you're bright, gifted, best comedy I've seen in a long time.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Jeez. Love this question.
And you floss between brushing.
Yeah, I do.
But I can't put it together with the New York Magazine cover.
Oh, it throws you?
Well, is that what you have to do to promote a movie?
No, actually, it's really interesting. My in-laws are here tonight, the Campbells, and partially one of the reasons that I did that cover was it was a great collaboration with me and my husband, who is an artist who drew the piece that I'm wearing on that cover. So for me, it's like, I kind of feel like if you're a writer and director and you do speak to female empowerment, that perhaps it's not a bad message, to sort of say, what, just because I'm a writer and director, I can't be naked on something, I can't, take a photo and express myself in that way. So for me, if anything, it feels like a collaboration between me and my husband, Scott Campbell, and it feels like a real moment, and certainly I'm born and raised in New York City, so being on the cover of that magazine was profound.
But okay, now when they told me that I was going to have the privilege of doing this Q&A with you, my first thought was, okay, I'm going to go up there and stand next to this bright, attractive lady, and people in the audience are going to be saying, Princess Leia, Jabba the Hutt. So I went out and bought some new pants that weren't quite as tight.
You look great, by the way.
Thank
I
you
know you do.
Yeah,
you look slick. I like the all black. It's very cool.
But okay, when you know you're going to do something like this, do you think ahead of time, okay, for about a week ahead of time, I'm going to have to go to the gym, I'm going to have to...
You mean for the New York Mag thing? All right, we're getting into it. I think...
Seriously, it's
honestly,
it's a gig.
I found out the day before that I was going to do it. So it was not, I did not have that luxury. But I feel like it's a great question because, as a woman, I do think about it, about, expressing myself that way and being sort of, going there a little bit, and the juxtaposition of having my movie out there and sort of expressing myself mentally as well. And I don't know, it feels definitely different, and complicated, but women are complicated. So somehow it fits, We are strange and complicated creatures. Do you think?
Right there.
I had a question about how do you prepare yourself mentally for a shooting day? What do you how many people are involved and things like that? How did you go about that to the day?
During shooting, yeah. The preparation on this film was paramount to its success. I knew that. To think that to write, direct, and star in something and produce it and not prepare, it would be a maniac to think it wasn't going to be hard. So I am a little bit of a maniac sometimes, but not in that respect. But truly, when you have soft prep and then hard prep, and then I tried to buy as many other preps as I could get. I had notebooks and lists and good pens and drawings and storyboards, and then bird's eye view, location, where the shot listing, all visual shot lists, and just a tremendous amount of preparation. So, for instance, as an actor, directing myself I was concerned that I would be too busy to give a crap, and then I was nervous that my own performance would be squandered, and that would do the whole movie a disservice because it's it's the main character. You gotta pay attention. So I took the script to this awesome lady, Leslie Kahn, an acting coach, and sort of treated it like somebody else wrote it. And then, so I had some objectivity there. And then I hired a stand-in with my likeness, and also I actually auditioned her for the part of Carol. And then sort of used her for all of the rehearsal time when you're setting up the shot, every aspect, and then plugged myself in it right at the end. So those were kind of my mechanisms to kind of deal with it. But yeah. It's a lot of prep and comfortable shoes.
What was the scene you were dreading to shoot them? What was the scene that kept you awake the night before going, oh yeah, I got to do that one tomorrow?
Well, I'll tell you, the scene that was dreading was the one between Lewis and Carol walking in front of the red wall, only because that actually is not the original script scene that I wrote. I had to rewrite that scene. That was the only one that I shot. It was done, in the can, in the edit, ready to go, and my editor was like, I got to talk to you about this scene. And I knew when we were shooting it was like we were losing the light, and some people were beeping and honking their horn going by. It was like too, it was like we were rushing it too much, and it was an emotional scene, and I rewrote that scene. And I rewrote it for the better, and that's where positive road blocking came in. It wasn't initially in the script. It was in the second, like that whole thing, and just cranberries and the whole thing. That all was part of the rewrite. So, I'm thankful to it.
You partly answered this because you said half these people you knew growing up. But how was it shooting with all the comedians in this film? You see Cordy, you see Dimitri, you see Notaro, you see Garland. How was it shooting with your friends and then these comedic actors that have dramatic range as well?
I think, the biggest challenge is time, because when you have so many incredible improv comedians, all you want to do is have them improvise. And improvising is a luxury. So you don't have the time when you shoot something in 20 days. We shot this in 20 days, Wow. And I know, it's like no time. So, low budget. It was under $1 million. So, the truth is, working with comedians, I wanted to give them an opportunity and give all of us an opportunity to play a bit, play some ping pong, some funny comedy ping pong, and have a good time. But we managed to do that by getting the scenes in the can first, doing a number of takes that way, and then always allowing for the fun takes at the end, kind of the tumble takes, the freebies once you have it. And that's when a lot of gifts came, improvised gifts came, but there's just not a lot of improvising in the movie. Like, for instance, Offerman, when he says, I'm sure they just did oral. Like, that was not written. He just said that. It's great. It's an Offerman moment. So good. And also Dimitri Martin talking about the lights, the switch, and the blue towel, and not the blue one, all that. That's also improvised.
Green shirt up there.
He's like, my shirt is blue, man.
Sorry. I was too busy rollicking last night.
I know you said, like I said, a lot of working with comedians that I know that I've heard, especially some of the bigger comedians might want to go a little bit more over the top with their performances, but a lot of the performances in this one were very understated, very, very low volume, they were still intense, they were still well done.
Measured, yeah.
Yeah, but they were, like you said, very measured, very low key. No big histrionics, no big
I know.
Screaming.
Look.
Even in the breakup scene where
I know.
where Mo is leaving and he was like, just goodbye, just leave it. There's no big yelling histrionic argument.
Well, because what was the question?
So how much of that was a choice, and how much of that really came more organically from?
That's an utter choice, because the people that I worked with, especially comedians, our tendency. Because I am one also, because I'm in those movies, I understand and can speak that language and say, I want you to challenge yourself by exercising restraint, which I tell myself all the time when doing comedy. It's difficult because everybody has so much fun, and then especially on Children's Hospital, not a show of subtlety. So it's a completely different can of worms, and it's really important, for all of these moments to work and tonally for me to express the tone that I wanted to get, which was, I shot it as a drama visually. I never treated it like we were shooting a comedy. We used dolly, we used staged sort of visuals, and I always wanted it to be that way. So same with the performances. It's like it's already going to be funny. We have people with funny bones. It's written to be funny. The musicality of things are funny and situationally funny. So in life, I feel like when the shit goes down, it's not. Sometimes people don't yell. It felt more real to me. So I hope that answers your question.
Gentleman right there.
Acting in a film that you directed yourself, is it more difficult to know if you have gotten what you want out of the tape?
For me personally?
Yes.
I'm pretty objective about my own performances, and certainly when I'm moving so quickly and I'm losing the light and there's no time, I've naturally never been really squeamish about my own self and my own performance. I don't look at myself like, I don't look good in that, I'm not that person, and I feel like I'm lucky in that way, because I understand and respect other people who can't watch themselves. They're uncomfortable with it. But I've never felt that way. So in the edit room, I would often, and by the way, I know when I'm phoning it in. Like, I know when I'm not being truthful. So, if everybody wants to move on, I'm like, God, I gotta go again, because I know I was not present for that. That's gonna suck in the edit. Or if I'm like, that was pretty good, we can move on. But in the edit, I would always refer to myself as Carol, just to make things easier. I'd be like, oh, Carol is not on it for that. That is bad on Carol. And then or alternatively, but.
Right there.
It was a great movie, so for me, it was kind of hard to believe that this is your first effort. So did you do any short films before?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
you did actual And the second question, are you planning on continuing as a writer-director? Or, I mean, because I know you're an actress, so I don't know if you're like going to continue with this, or if this is just kind of something you need to get out. Like a message that you wanted to get out.
So to your first question, have I done anything else before that? I had written this, I had co-written another script sort of 10 years ago. I'd been writing my whole life and was sort of a closet writer. I never wanted to be sort of an actress who said she was writing a screenplay with nothing to show for it. You know, I judged myself. I did. And then until finally I had one and presented it. But I did co-write this other script, and it was another 5-year effort, and it all fell apart. We had it all set up, and it was so heartbreaking because the whole damn thing fell apart. It was just, I had such a bad taste in my mouth about making movies. And then finally I got over it and started and had the idea for In a World and started writing it. And, you know, I presented it to my agents eventually, and they said, you need to direct this. And I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I would never have the audacity to direct something without already having done something, like you said. And so I was like, you're damn right. I'm going to go make a short film. And I wrote and directed a short film called Worst Enemy that I didn't star in because I wanted to be present as a director and see if this concept of me doing it would work. And I remember my first day, I'll never forget, on Worst Enemy, looking around and being like, I'm home. I want to do this for the rest of my life. So it's coming. Yeah, it will be online. It will also be on the DVD. We had problems licensing our music. Look, I'll be honest. So ridiculous. But I do have another. I then went on to direct Children's Hospital, a number of episodes of Children's Hospital, which I still do. And then I went into In a World. So I had little boot camps right before, and since then I've done little short films as well.
Can you give us an idea of what the sequel is going to be about?
I love the audacity of the. No. No, but I'm working on my next feature, but it is not a sequel. I mean, we got to it, right? We got enough voices. Now we got to work on the actual industry. That is the voiceover industry. So we have a lot of work to do.
Up at the top there.
If you have more time, would you have changed anything on the movie? Or do you think like the short amount of time spent on it actually helped you make it better?
You mean in the shooting of it?
Yeah.
I think you always want more days, no matter what. But I do think that creativity is bred from constraints sometimes. You know, it really is. I mean, sometimes when you have too much money, you know, you sort of lose track of what you're trying to say, you know, or it's fear-based a little bit. But not to say that I wouldn't prefer a slightly bigger budget next time, because that was tough. Or just a couple more days. But no, I'm very proud of the movie the way it is. I think that I was given the amount of days I was supposed to be given, you know, in the same way that I can look at something and think, okay, the script is done, I need to shoot this now. I have a pretty good barometer of when things are done, you know, and I feel when we locked picture, I felt good. I did. And also, you know, it gets vetted by your friends and the brains that you respect. You know, you start to screen it for people. Same with the script. You have your friends read it, whether they're writers or not, you know. So.
After you wrote the film, after you cast it, you were shooting it, what did your collaborators, what did members of your cast tell you about these characters you didn't know before?
You know, I feel like what's cool about hiring great actors is that they always bring on their own sort of backstory, and we didn't have a tremendous amount of time of rehearsal, so, you know, it was a lot of, because they're my friends, I would just invite them to dinner or lunch and be like, oh, I guess we could rehearse. They're like, wait a second. This is not just a casual dinner, is it?
Was it sandwich boards?
Exactly. I'm like, here's a highlighter. You know, and then we would just get into it. But no, all of them are tremendous actors and brought a multitude of things, whether, you know, it was, I always, you know, I would sort of impart my thoughts on things, like for instance with Nick Offerman, smaller role, but I'm like, okay, here's how I feel about this guy. I feel like he and his, you know, his family never really got along with, but he married Mimi, who's in the Russian community, and he really latched on to that. And I feel like you should go forth with that and really take on any visual cues if you want. He wanted to wear a Celtic cross for the whole time. I mean, and a lot of hats. I'm like, listen, man, whatever you got to do, let's get you the right garb. But everybody kind of brings their little things, no matter how small, or Fred's, elaborate. We would have, elaborate conversations about intellectually what this character is feeling, and I had to help him justify, obviously, sort of despicable acts. He's a very kind man personally, so to relate to doing something kind of unsavory is difficult sometimes.
Right there.
Okay. So this movie resonated a lot with me because I'm kind of also trying to get into that industry that's more close to newcomers. I'm also a writer, and this is really inspiring.
Awesome.
And so I just kind of I want to ask you to speak for all women, because I know that can be annoying. But I wanted to ask what the staff room scene in particular with the executive producers, what the significance of that was, like in your own, thought process.
Yeah, I mean, that scene, when Gina Davis's speech is one of my favorite speeches in the movie, and mainly because I think I was interested in investigating what women are in success, because again, women are complicated and I love them so much. And I do think I have younger sisters, I have a mom, obviously, but in truth, I think there's something really interesting about a woman who feigns that they are there to help you, and then has a struggle being able to give that to you fully. So I felt two versions of women that I admire looking down to me. I felt the one version, which is, hey, come on up, I got your back, come on, I'm going to help you get up here, this is great, I'm so glad what you're doing. And then another breed, which is a more complicated and interesting conversation of women who says, I'm not going to quite help you. I'm going to have you do it by yourself, and then when you get up here, maybe I'll shake your hand. You know what I mean? Because I did it all on my own, And it's competitive, and it's tough. And I think, I used her to speak to the importance of what voiceover is, but because it is tremendously important. It's constantly going, voices are constantly telling us what to feel, how to think, what, bank to trust with our mortgage. There's major life choices, voices. And if they are all male, then, obviously she's pointing out the importance and gravity of having a woman behind this very vastly seen promo, that maybe it will evoke some change. But just letting her know that it's, she's doing it for her own devices, not necessarily for the betterment of her. So, and at the end of that speech, all she says is, a very simple thing, is that your dad must be proud, and that's the antithesis of where she finds herself. And it helps Carol realize that, hopefully, that here's this moment in her life where she's attained this goal, but it's really the goal of someone else. So she's done it in vain. It's her father's goal. And she doesn't like the way this feels. It feels icky. And the truth is, she ends up doing what she's good at, which is helping people, and it makes her feel far better. Sorry, that was long-winded. Jesus.
But you projected.
I try.
Okay. I wanted to ask, what are the similarities between you and Carol, like your personality, maybe your family, or what are your similarities?
I think when you write, as when you're a writer, you take on, you grab from things that from therapy you've gone to, an amalgamation of all kinds of people in your family or your friends or experiences or emotions or exposure to the human condition that you get on an everyday basis, And I'm not, remind me of another time of myself. And Carol is sort of stuck in the mud in this sort of stunted development. So it's, there's parts of her that are me, but, our neuroses are based in different places. And what about this gentleman?
Right here. He's so modest.
I know.
Question, since you were the writer and the director of it, is the vision of the movie the same as when you was writing it as you directed?
What's so cool about being a part of every aspect of this movie is that it is in constant evolution. I mean, not at this point, thank God. At this point, it's going to stay where it is. You guys are going to eat some popcorn and see it. But I mean, throughout the process, it's been so inspiring to be sitting in front of a blank screen and a blinking cursor, that lonely moment of writing it and then having it grow into something completely different when you're shooting it, because it naturally evolves, because things happen. People change things, and or we lost a location, so you have to rewrite a scene, or like you get a scene in the can, you got to rewrite it, and then when you get in the editorial booth, you're just another sea of options come up, and you have to cut things and retool things and rearrange and manipulate performances, and it's a constant evolution. That's what makes it so fiercely creative too. So your brain is constantly working. So it is what I had no idea that I'd end up sitting in front of you guys. Like, you don't make the movie thinking that that's going to happen. You just kind of make the movie because you need to make the movie, and you want to make a nugget of cool things that you can share with your friends and enjoy the experience together, and hopefully some people see it. But this is amazing.
One last question.
Oh, look, there's all these pointing. Look, there's like a campaign over there.
I'm sorry, they're pointing at her, I think.
Well, I think you've already sort of answered my question.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if you had any sisters. And I think the sister relationship was beautifully written and acted. And also, I thought you were great on the Daily Show.
On the Daily. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I do have sisters. I have two lovely sisters, younger half-sisters, and they... But what's so interesting is that the type of relationship that's here is actually that of me and my older brother. So he's kind of my sister code, which, he can own that. He and I grew up in a household where there was a lot of, it's fine. Everybody's family is. I mean, there's a lot of divorce in the room, I'm sure. But my parents were divorced, and so there was a lot of carting each other around, and we were kind of each other's hub, and a lot of my humor and ability to want to make people laugh is based on my brother Luke, who I would constantly try to make laugh, and vice versa. So. He's my sister code.
Well, thank you very much for a rollicking.
Thank you so much. Tweet about us or something.
And tell your friends about In a World.
In a World.